Armstrong testing zone. My son using the S1 1850 is working on jibes. He probably should go smaller, probably will, with the 235 and a shim. His fiance with the S1 1550. I'm going with the 140 and a red shim. Yesterday I used the 180 with a red and a blue with the front MA Mark II 890 and an 865 mast. And I like setting my rig up to about 8.5-ish. With the Mark II, I slide them slightly forward, especially as I shim the tails more. My wife is using the 180, so that's why I can't use it today. So I'm going to be giving up some glide. The new 170 and 200 are still in transit. Should have them tomorrow. And I have the MA 990 for my wife set up. Looks like a fantastic day. We're just getting ready, heading out. Son's rigging the 4.6. I'm rigging 4.0. Comparing 6 of the new stabilizers from Armstrong, from the 120, 140, 170, 200, 180, and 220, you can see that they all have some different characteristics. The things that affect them the most are the span, the cord, the thickness, the dihedral, whether there's a concave, whether there's a reflex, and those things are going to affect the speed and the flow in the conditions of the water that you ride them in. So if I specifically look at two of the ones that I think work best with the MA MK2 new foils, I said the 170, it works great, has a little less concave than the Dart, a little less. It's a little thicker, it has a little less dihedral, it's a little bit flatter than the Dart. And the 200 has quite a bit more span. The 200 has span similar to the 180. The 180 has a little more dihedral. The 200 looks a little flatter. The 200 is a little thicker. The span is almost exact same. The cord between that one and the 180 is definitely bigger, obvious. Now if I look to the some of the older 6 or more intermediate beginner, because this S1 is actually fairly new, the original 300, the S1 300, the 235 flow, the 205, the 195, and the V200. Well, the V200 gives you extra stabilization because it actually makes it as if you have a longer fuse. It goes back a lot farther. I like to put the screws over top of each other, and you can see how that would be like running a longer fuse, which is going to stabilize speed and turn compared to the 195. The 205, now interesting comparison, they're about the same width, but I do find the V200 works better with the old HS myself. But a lot of people would be very familiar with the 205. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to move the 205 890 with the 200 tail and a blue shim is just a dream of easiness. So I've done one more row, and I started by putting the 680 at the top of it with the 690, then my MA 800, followed by the 220, Then I added the 235 into the lineup beside the 180, then the 200 beside the original Surf 205, then 170, 140, and 120. So now if I'm going to talk about the ones that I put into the lineup that are new, the 205, its span is similar, so that's a glide characteristic. The camber, compared to the 170, or the concave on the bottom, there is more on the 205, which means it would provide a little more lift probably, but take away some speed. This one has a little bit on the 170, but it is less, has more sweep, and it is a thinner, flatter foil. So to me that would mean, but without taking calipers or doing any fine measurements or knowing all the formulas, the 170 is probably the faster, more maneuverable foil, and it does seem like that to me. Now if I compare the 205, which lots of people have used, to the 200, the 200 again is more swept back. It's more spanny in that it's more similar to the 180 in span. It is a little less than the 180 in span. It also has a larger cord, bigger footprint, but it is swept back more. It has, again, less camber. It has a little bit, but not as much concave as the 180 or the 205. More similar to what the Dart is. The Dart has a fair bit. And these two new ones, 200 and 170, they have less camber. And as far as the top feels, they don't have much reflex either, although they do go to a bit of a flat spot, whereas the 205 is a little more rounded, and the 180 is more rounded, whereas this one goes to a little flat, but again, I don't have calipers. I'm just doing with my finger feel, and I know if there's a reflex, and it's an obvious comparison when I get the 680. It's why I said it here. The 680 has a definite reflex. You can feel it in the top surface. It's a pretty thick foil, and it's very forward, and has lots of camber or concave in the bottom. And if you go to the new MK, the MK is a little more rounded, but does get a little flat section on the top. So you can tell how the MK2 is paired with a similar shape to the new Surf feel, in that the top is similar shape and the bottom, it has less camber than the HA, so it should be a faster foil in similar size, but it's going to give you a little less lift and less glide, and that's why they probably say to size it up. And then if I go to what I used to love as my wave foil, and still do, the MA 800, it is definitely more rounded on the top, or again, it's subtle. You'd have to have calipers to see the difference. And it's built a little more like the 180 tail, in that it's very rounded. So I think the 180 tail has the very similar feel on the top to the MA. And I think that 180 tail was made to be similar to the original MA. And the bottom feels like it has a good amount of camber, and so does the 180. So the new Surfs are a little flatter, just like the new MK2s. And one more thing that Armstrong did in the last couple of years was they even improved their beginner Surf. So this is just, I'll mention it because this is all about my family. So the span on the new 300 is a finger space bigger or more, and instead of downturn, it's upturn, and it's a little thinner, and it is a flatter. So when they're progressing, this one will give them more of a wave ride, car glidey feel, which will allow them to progress, at least allowed my kids to progress to the 235 and the 180 a lot faster. Much ease of use, great. My daughter used it yesterday. I'm using it now. Wow, is it ever easy to ride these waves, connect the dots. Confident, like right there, almost overfoiled. Just gave it a pump, right back in it. So easy. So the 200 is the easy button. You want to ramp it up a little for speed. You shim it, red or blue. And if you want real carvy, go to the 170 with a shim or the 130, but be prepared for less glide